Hey guys, Yugioh here with another Tengu plant format deck profile. This time we're doing Dark Worlds. Now this isn't like a standard Dark World build per se for the format because I'm not like main decking Skill Drain or anything. Because I wanted to make a build that's just a bit more fun and a bit more interactive, as well as honestly one that's more consistent. This deck was known to be very, very good game 1 and then to just be like crippled games 2 and 3 by the sideboard. Well, I tried to make this deck a little bit more versatile. I mean, Shadow Imprisoning Mirror still completely destroys it, but other than that, it has its own ways of surviving and stuff. We're starting with 3 Grapha, 3 gold, only 1 Silva because you don't want to clog up in the hand. That was another thing. It's like sometimes this deck would just lose to itself by not having a monster you could summon. I try to mitigate all of these things. 3 Snow, 3 Brow, and then 1 Trance Archfiend. Like, that's as much as, like, the standard typical Dark Worlds as far as they go. And then I play a smallish tour guide engine. You don't ever have to pull out the Sangan. In fact, very often what I'll do is I'll actually pull out Brow, and then I'll overlay it for a Leviathan or a Giga Brilliant. And then I'll just detach for that, and that'll actually set up your gates to the Dark World for first turn in case you have no ways of getting it to the graveyard. Because we only play 1 drag down to the grave, and then, like, because I'm trying to not abuse that card, because that card's not exactly a good card. I try to save it more for more skillful plays, you could say. And then 1 Morphing Jar, because, you know, I just said skillful plays, well, apparently, you know, I mean, whatever, it wins you games. Okay, because, I mean, I played 2 Upstarts, and then this is a really fun combo. You just set an Upstart Goblin, set Morphing Jar, it gets flipped, you draw 5 cards, you draw for turn, and then you Upstart for even more advantage. It's pretty sick. I love it. We have 3 gates, 3 dealings, which is my least favorite card in the deck now, because it allows your opponent to make their hand better or set up for plays. And unless you have Dark Smog, like, you can just kind of get punished for it. 1 card destruction and 1 drag down. Like I said, I'm playing this card more as a bit of a skill card now, where I'm just saving it for times when I know what they have in hand. They only have 1, like, I know what they have in hand and I need to get rid of what they have in hand. That's what I'm saving this card for more now, not to boost my own consistency anymore. I'm really trying to steer away from that because I just don't like how that plays. We have 1 Reborn, 1 Heavy, 2 MSTs, and then 1 My Body is a Shield. This card is super duper important because sometimes you'll establish a big board and then next turn you'll just get Darkhold. Well, not with that, as well as not with this either. Because that's another thing. I'm playing Starlight Road to protect my gates. Because sometimes I need to keep gates alive. And the first thing your opponent always wants to do is hit gates of the Dark World. So if you just activate gates and you just set Starlight Road, unless they have MST, you can just flip that out on heavy and just have a good time, you know? So that's really super important. I love this card in this deck. It's every time I have drawn this card, I've used it. Every time I've used it, I've won a game. And I think that's really important. So I'm really all for Starlight Road. Next I played 2 Dark Smog because even with the slightly different Dark World monster count lineup, it's still a very important card. And it's still very good in certain matchups. I'm talking about you plants. Next we played 2 Mind Crush and then Dust Shoot for just the single best 1-2 punch blowout ever. One time I was playing against Tengu plants and they had let's see here. I flipped over this, I shuffled the Caius in their hand back to their deck, and then after seeing their hand, I flipped over this and I took out Reborn Tengu out of their hand into the graveyard. And it was crippling. They had no good first turn play and they had no good follow-up play after that because of that. It was awesome. And then I play 1 Bottomless. I could play 1 Warning. I might move this to a Warning because I'm a bit more defensive in this deck and I can afford the life points now. But I'm still not exactly sold on it. But Bottomless is really solid, and it just kind of, it covers for those unstartable hands. You can at least flip a Bottomless on them and just at least get some sort of stalling going. So it's pretty awesome. Now because we play Monster Reborn and a bunch of cards to dig to it, we're playing a full extra deck here. So I'm going to do 1 Zemaio, 1 Adrius, 1 Tyrus. They're all pretty good in their own times. You do make them. Especially making this without a normal summon, especially when you can pull out Grapha, it's going to either pull out their best back row or they're going to lose it. And that's really, really nice. So I'm a huge fan of Zemaio in this deck. At first I didn't like it, but as my playstyle evolved, I grew to like it more. One Utopia, because you make it sometimes. And then the ones you make the most because of the tour guide engine. We have one of each of the standards. These two are best for the first turn pushes. This is amazing for Transarch Fiend plays. Well, I mean, yeah, it helps Transarch, but I mean, just helps with those Gates of the Dark World setups and stuff. Because, you can actually reuse Sangan thanks to this and that's an amazing interaction. And one Zen mains, which is pretty good. And then for synchros, we have 1/5 in Cataster, 2 6s in Brio and Orient Dragon. Orient Dragon is literally, I put in just to get rid of Ancient Fairy Dragon. Because if you spent all of your Graphas, so they're all in the graveyard, and your opponent makes Ancient Fairy Dragon against you, you pretty much don't have a way to make it. The only other way you can really get rid of it is through Black Rose Dragon, Scrap Dragon, or Trish. So it's just more options of getting rid of the card, because let's say you have a Brow, or even better, you have like a Tour Guide, and you have Monster Reborn. Do Tour Guide, you bring out a Sangan, or Tour Guide, or Brow, or whatever, and then you Monster Reborn a 3 from their graveyard, a level 3 tuner, like a Gale the Whirlwind or something like that, and you just make this. Or 4 and 2. I haven't done 5 and 1 yet. In all honesty, I haven't done 3 and 3 either. 4 and 2 has been the way I've made it the most, because I like bring back an Agent of Mystery Earth, and I got rid of their Ancient Fairy Dragon then. But that was their Agent deck, and they were bad, and I punished them for it. Alright. That's the Dark World deck profile. It's a pretty good deck. I do like this build more than the standard build. I had the standard build in the past, but actually I took it apart because I just wasn't really enjoying it. Everybody who played it, they either won every single game or they lost on turn 1. And it was just, I don't know, I didn't like that very much. Even though you lose a little bit of the power pushiness because you're playing less of the big ones, you get a lot more consistent play. Just think of it as getting rid of sacrificing the power cards for consistency in play and like variety and options. I don't know. I'm a fan of it. This looks pretty fun. This is Fushido signing out.